The confusion is that the Giza monuments were built before the flood. And that's where the original diffusion of all languages and all that stuff actually happened, was in the pre-cataclysm period before the flood. But pyramids were being built all over again after the cataclysm, around the exact same time, 1996 BC, when the story of the Tower of Babel became famous. But this time it wasn't. It's what it is an older story imposed or superimposed upon newer events. The newer event was Sargon of Akkad had just lost his empire, and it fragmented, and all these people were escaping the Akkadian dominion. This is after the fall of Sumer. So Sargon the First becomes Naram Sin. A lot of Near Eastern Assyriologists, they actually believe that Naram Sin is an independent person. He's not. These just like pharaohs, they had milk names, they had throne names, they had dynastic names, they had names of conquest, they had familial names. But Naram Sin is just the next phase of Sargon of Akkad's life. He is the same individual as Amar Udaak. Before he was Sargon the First, he was Amar Udaak. But later in Babylon, he wasn't remembered that way. He was remembered in the Babylonian Semitic Amorite as Merodach. But this was abbreviated in ancient Babylon to Marduk. And then later on, he just became Mars. But still, what you're describing is the superimposition of an older substrate of stories that were real about Giza that were put over the fragmentation of the kingdom of Akkad when it became so many different nation states after the fall of the Akkadian Empire. And this became the fall of Babili being Babylon. So this is how this happened. This is how the story of the Tower of Babel being put after the flood came into being, when the story is actually much older, and it goes to Giza before the flood.
Okay, understood.
Listening? I'm going to answer that. He didn't say reset. He said, what's the point of races? What is it about races? So this coming from a guy from Ghana, it's a good question. So we can only go by what we discover in the historical record in order to answer something like that. Anything else is going to be conceptual. It's going to be theory. If we go by the historical record, then we have two main sources that actually discuss race. Two ancient series of documents. One of them is the Sumerian text. The Sumerian texts do address race, different races, as being products of the gods, introducing them. They don't get into it a lot. In the Sumerian literature, there was two different races. One of them were the Anuna, and then the Sumerians. The Sumerians prided themselves as the black-headed people, and they were very different than the Anuna who came to live among them. But the greatest source of racial documents discussing different races would be the Mayan Popol Vuh. The Mayan Popol Vuh document literally says that there have been vast epics, periods of time where a race was allowed to achieve whatever it wanted to and do whatever it was, and then the gods would reset the world. It would cause a cataclysm, and there would be 1 age, 2 age, 3 age, four ages. Sometimes they called them sons: the first son, the second son, the third son, the fourth son. In each period between sons, the gods would introduce a very different race than the race before, and they would make modifications and changes into the human, whatever it was, human avatar, and they would wait and they would watch. And the gods would get discouraged. And they said, well, this race isn't doing exactly what we want either. And they would cause a reset. And they would and following the reset, the gods would introduce a new race. In the Mayan Popol Vuh, the first people were made out of like water. Second people were made out of stone. Third people were made out of mud. Then they would make a new race of people out of plants. None of this worked. So they would mix up rabbits, and they would make them out of blood of a pre-existing human type. But in the Mayan version, it was cataclysms that finished the reign of a race and introduced a new race into the experience. So if this is a simulation, then whoever's controlling the simulation is introducing new genetic material, creating new branches of the human species, and then wiping out their civilizations, but not wiping out their bloodlines. So today, we have evidence of many different races, but there's no way to genetically connect them. There's no way to anthropologically connect them all. And the further we go back, we find even greater disparity. We find human families with 6 fingers and 6 toes that were using a Sumerian sexagesimal mathematical system. Then we have humans with 5 fingers and 5 toes, and they were purely using a decimal mathematics based off the number 10. So we have Cro-Magnon, and then in Cro-Magnon, we even have different types of them, especially the Magnolanian type. Then we have the Neanderthal. We have different types of Neanderthal. So when he asked about race, and there's just no real good answer outside the context of the historical record. In the historical record, we find out that both sources, the Sumerian Babylonian version of the introduction of different races and how each one of them was ended with a cataclysm, and the Mayan, that's 2 different hemispheres, the ancient Near East and the ancient Americas. And the Maya say that the gods were the ones that introduced each race, and the division between each race and their reign was a cataclysm, a world destruction. But they didn't wipe out the whole race. They just wiped out their civilization. They left some of them as residual, and then they would grow up and become their own different countries as another race grew up and took over. The other races still existed. They just weren't at their apex anymore. So it's a very difficult question to answer, so I can only answer it from the historical record. Well, I have a theory. About human origins. Would you like to hear it?
Oh, I love it.
So if I was to just purely use the archaeologically verified data that we have and just omit traditions, legends, myths, and all that stuff, and I'm just going to go by what's been found and what's been admitted by paleontologists, then I'm going to have to say that every species, even not just human, every species of plant, every species of animal was brought here suddenly. Entire ecosystems appear in a flash. All the occupants, and below them, there are absolutely no transitional forms from the last time that an ecosystem just suddenly appeared. The entire fossil record is something I'm going to be talking about soon, but the entire fossil record shows only 2 groups of fossils.
Right.
There's only 2 groups. There are life forms that have become extinct, and the other one are life forms that died and were petrified, but they still exist today.
Right.
There's no evolution. No evolution whatsoever. Those are the only 2 types of fossils, and this is what is admitted by paleontologists. Only 2 types of fossils. Those of animals that are no longer here because they're extinct, and fossils of animals that are here today. They're still alive today. So no transitional forms, no natural selection, no evolution, just slight modifications as species adapt to new biospheres. That's it.
That's the only argument people want to get you trapped in, is that how they change colors, or their antennae get longer, or some stupid
speckled
stuff.
moth. The speckled moth was, for 40 years, the speckled moth was the proof of evolution. And all it is different patterns on the moth wings than others, because the moth lives in different areas, and that's just adaptation. There's still no transitional forms to show what was it before it was a moth.
So basically, taking from what you're saying is we came from one.
Well, what I'm saying is the fossil record only shows instant appearances of ecosystems that are fully intact, with flora and fauna all there. Now, Ivar Zapp and other researchers even said in the paleontological record in anthropology, they don't understand it, but it almost as if, they said it just like this, it's almost as if whole entire human groups just suddenly appeared. And they may have only took them 3 hours or 3 days before they all realized what they were, because they had implanted memories. Now, so my theory of human origins is this. You and I are living in a contained environment. I call it the simulacrum. Life does not originate in here. It's brought here through tertiary fields. And when the field's removed, we're left with all these specimens, new plants, new animals. Remember, there are no cactus in the fossil record. There's no drop ships. No drop ships, none of that stuff. So remember, and the Voynich manuscript, nobody would have spent years putting together the Voynich manuscript. I'm going to show all 3 copies I got. I have 3 different books on the Voynich manuscript. No one would have spent this meticulous time on this micro detail on plants that cannot be found in our world today.
Oh, they snuffed that out. They
were here.
Oh, it's done. It's gone.
Yeah, the world is gone, but it was done here. That relic was left here. That book was written here. When you remember, Nemesis X tertiary field is here for 60 years. Do you know how long 60 years is? You do. You're over 60 years old. I'm 52. I'm not even 60 years old yet. But in 60 years, we have a totally different biosphere of extreme high pressure, ultraviolet light. We have ambient radiation, gamma saturation, which is ambient radiation. It's gamma saturation, and it creates all these changes. And somebody lived during one of those 60-year periods when all those chicken legs were given, were hatching into velociraptors, and they wrote what they saw. The whole book is about. It's almost as if they're amazed. All the pictures in the Voynich manuscript, it's like somebody knew that this is unusual and documented everything. And then when that world was gone, when that author was gone, somebody in the 1200s found that book in an old chest, and it unleashed it. I'm going to give the whole history on it, but there were very prominent people in history who investigated this book even 200 and 300 years ago, trying to figure out what the fuck is this, because it's too detailed to be fiction. Show it. I don't just claim it. I show it. And going back to John Taylor in the 1860s, to H. Alder Smith in the 1870s, going all the way back to Astronomer Royal for Scotland, Charles Piazzi Smith, who also had this theory, and so did Engineer David Davidson. So did Adam Rutherford. Many people have had the theory, but they didn't have an accurate chronology until when I finished Chronicon, based off all these chronological records I've assembled from all over the world. Then I went by the actual scientific measurements of the pyramid, and bam, could not believe everything that I have showed my community thus far. I have about 10 different videos on my channel where I go deep, and it's unmistakable. I didn't date any of these events to create these measurements in years. I did not date any of these rectilinear measurements in the Great Pyramid. And these aren't just ordinary measurements. This is the beginning and end of significant architectural deals. So the theory is over 200 years before I was born. It wasn't accurately applied because no one had an accurate chronology of world events that has been verified by so many different species of analysis. So once the accurate world chronology was superimposed over the rectilinear dimensions of the Great Pyramid, which was done by a scientist, which is accepted by Egyptologists today, that's when I started showing my community, look at this. This is incredible. But it's not outlandish, because the 2,000 and 3,000 year old traditions that are attached to the Great Pyramid from Egypt, the Egyptian Copts, they literally told us that the past, the present, and the future was all encoded inside the Great Pyramid. They told us this. So yeah, a lot of greater minds than I had already theorized this. They just weren't able to apply it because they did not have the historical information at their fingertips yet.
Maybe that's so what do you call it? An axiomatic truth of reality as a whole, that there has to be some kind of predator-prey relationship. Would you agree to that notion at all?
Well, I'm not only going to agree, but I'm going to take it one step further. I have promoted from day one, that you are not your body. that your avatar is made up of the same coding protocols of the construct itself. You are inside a piece of the construct, moving inside of the construct, wearing a small garment made of the same core programming. So if the construct is based off the tenets of predator versus prey, so is your body, but it has nothing to do with the immortal within.
Said there was a Phoenix episode in China, and the Qing dynasty was like basically kicked out, and they end up in America being the Olmecs?
Yes, absolutely. It's 1135 BC.
Okay.
There is a. I should do another video just showing all the Olmec artifacts side by side with the Shang artifacts. They're identical. This isn't my position. There's a lot of researchers out there who believe that the Olmeca are the 250,000 Chinese of the Shang dynasty that were the men. See, what happened was the emperor in China in 1135 BC, he lost his throne because the main thing that his job is to do is to support the celestial sphere and make sure everything's operating. This is Chinese like emperor throne philosophy. If anything ever goes wrong with the sky and the people suffer, it's called the mandate of heaven. It changed, meaning the emperor has to step down. But when the emperor steps down, so does every single person that he appointed, everybody in his government, his entire standing army, their families, all their entourages. So they were banished, and a new emperor takes his place. So what happened in 1135 BC was a Phoenix phenomenon. The sun darkened. It was not predicted, and the emperor was banished. Well, 250,000 Chinese get on their ships, and their navy back then was fantastic. Huge, gigantic ships, and they disappeared into North America. But a bunch of them didn't stay in the San Francisco area. They hugged the coast all the way down to Central America, and they stayed on the Pacific coast only for about 50 years. They stayed there for about 50 years, and then they traveled overland to Veracruz State over on the Gulf Coast, and they became the Olmecs. But they had their jade from China. They had all their Chinese artifacts with them. But yeah, this is a very common theory because it doesn't make sense for the Olmecs to have so much Chinese stuff in their culture. Man, and there's so many examples. There's so many examples. It's not just the basketball player. It's not just the white rapper. It's our reality is the example I heard. I think I told you, man. It was an X video. There's a video on X, and this dude was serious. He just laid it out. And he was talking about how reality basically creates the conditions that we experience by what we believe inwardly. And he's saying whatever you truly believe about yourself inwardly is the outward expression of the universe that you experience. It may not be the universe that other people experience, but the part of the universe which is like a kaleidoscope, Mandelbrot holographic reality that's tailored to you. That what you experience in the external just for you is exactly the way you view yourself inwardly. He said that's why some of these guys, it perplexes you. You're on the outside looking in at a phenomenon of a guy who is very plain. He could even be accused of being unattractive. And yet he has the smokingest hot females gravitating around him all the time. And other men see this. We've seen this activity before, and we always default to the simple. Oh, he's got big money, or he's got a big beep. You know this, man. You're guilty of it too. So am I. But this guy was explaining. He says, no, something happened in this man's past where he realized that he was of high value to very attractive females. And when he began putting this energy out, which all it is energy, then very attractive females that were resonating on his frequency automatically gravitate to him in public. And when that type of synchronicity is happening between souls, it doesn't even matter what he's saying. She's going to resonate with it. And there's going to be an exchange of information. A feedback loop is created. This dude went off. He went off. He's talking about how the rich, I forgot what video I was listening to, but he's talking about how the rich educate their children and tell them, yeah, man, this is as above, so below, as without, so within. He said, you have to lose the idea that we're in a physical reality. And you have to understand that the blank slate of what you want to experience tomorrow is written within. And when you come to believe what you wrote on that blank slate about yourself inwardly, that's what appears on the projection of tomorrow. He went off. Now, he said a lot of things that I was familiar with, but he said it in ways that were very comprehensible. I was very impressed. I wish I would have saved that video. I might. All the calculations forward and backward in time, I use the Annus Mundi because it's unbroken. Oh, the main confusion comes on when BC converts to AD, Anno Domini calendars. That's where a lot of people get confused. There was no year zero, so a lot of people don't add that extra one in there. And I show charts in my Chronicon that shows the confluence from BC to AD and shows every year Annus Mundi. And it shows you exactly how to convert those calendars. So I use Annus Mundi when I'm doing my calculations forward and backwards because it's easy for me to mentally connect every Annus Mundi date to a BC to a BC or an AD date. I can do it. I can convert them fast. I got it. But other people have to see the chart to be able to do it until they understand how to add the one. But
yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of ways. You don't even have to use the Annus Mundi date. If you're measuring events on the Greek Olympiad calendar, it's different too, because it's going to tell you, well, this happened in the 17th. This happened in the third year of the 17th Olympiad. Well, it's really interesting. Well, that's easy to figure out. The Olympiad system started in 776 BC, and it's every 4 years. So you count the 17th 4-year period, and in the 18th 4-year period, it's going to be the third year. So the third year of the 17th Olympiad. So every count you have to pretty much ascertain how to factor time in individual culture systems in order to really to call yourself a chronologist. Like the Maya wouldn't have understood your years. They didn't give a damn. There was never a time when the Maya said that something that this happened in the 1432nd year. They did not factor time that way. They didn't care, because every single year began a whole new circuit of the heavens. So to the Maya, the only thing that mattered was the 20-day period. It was extremely important to them. And the 20-day period added 3 of those cycles, added another Mayan period that was very important, the 60-day cycle. And then the one after that was the Venus cycle. And the one after that was 360 days. And not because it was a year, but because it was considered a divine cycle. And and the entire Mayan long count is 1,872,000 days. And it's perfectly divisible by 360. Exactly 5,200 times. The holy number of all ancient American systems is the calendar round, which is the number 52. So the beauty about the Annus Mundi system is you can use it as a back tester against all other world chronologies. That's the beauty of it. That's how I use it.
Yeah.
Well, Nemesis is female.
So yes.
During a 60-year Nemesis tertiary field, I would not be surprised to find that some of the older traditions about, where we get our goddesses or our witches, our sirens, these traditions may be based in some type of reality. I mean, in what world that's full of warfare and violence would men succumb to the authority of females? But this was the pre-flood world. Even the 7 Anunnaki kings only followed a matriarch. They literally followed. This is in the traditions. They literally followed a female authority. So, if the pre-flood world was the goddess period, and the pre-flood world is basically noted for two appearances of Nemesis X, and the very first appearance is the one that launched ancient Sumerian civilization. Is when Enki was here. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it's the field. Let me explain. So, if we all have a field, every one of us. But if the Nemesis X field itself, when it overlays, if we're truly from Nemesis X and we're not from Earth, that's my theory. My theory is that we're the intruders. Humans are not from the Terra sphere. I believe that we came from Nemesis X.
Yes.
Now, this is where all the confusion is. I tell people all the time, we are Anuna. People talk about the Anunnaki as being this and the Anunnaki. You don't even understand that we are the very, very God human types figures that we're always talking about. We are them. We're descended from them. So if we came from Nemesis X, but we're now here, when the Nemesis X field overlays the Terra field, it's merely going to magnify what you already are. If you're a creature of fear and hatred, you're going to become very demonic. If you're a creature of hope and strength and resilience, then you're going to become like superhero. You understand? If you're a creature of healing and love, you're going to become like a goddess of love, a goddess of healing. And this is what we have from the mythological traditions. These traits came out. They were amplified in some, but not in others. So I believe the field overlay isn't what we've been told. Just like I believe the 2046 episode isn't what we've been told in the Judeo-Christian deal about like the Battle of Armageddon and all the evil coming together to fight. You know, I believe that we've got everything the exact opposite of the truth. I believe that in 2046, like the Mayan long count talks about an army of demons. In the Book of Revelation says 200 million locust demons come up from the deep and scour over the earth. But this is Judeo-Christian programming.
Of course.
If Nemesis X is actually bringing a population here, then they're going to be bringing our kinfolk. These are enemies. These aren't enemies, but there's somebody here that's an enemy of all of us, and we know who they are. Remember, I do say this a lot. We do not get what we want. We get what we are. So I can't remember. It wasn't Thomas Campbell. I was listening to a podcast interview with somebody just recently, and I cannot remember who it was, but he was literally saying many of the things that I've been saying for years. And I don't lay credit to anything that I've been purporting. And you guys know, I'm always letting you know where I get my material from. Wallace Wattles, 100 years ago, 120 years ago, Judge Thomas Troward, the Edinburgh Lectures on Mental Science. I'm always quoting the greats. These are people who were around before Neville Goddard. These are people who were around before The Secret of Rhonda Byrne. These are the originals and the OG of them all. There isn't anyone that goes back as far as Balthazar Gracian. Talking about 900 years ago. This man here, he knew his shit. And basically the entire fundament, the core message, and you can dress it up in procedures and all kinds of things you want to, but the absolute core fundamental that everybody needs to know is that this entire experience is a stage. The stage is magical and it's always observing you. Whatever character you choose to play on a daily basis is how the stage prepares your experience. It's that simple. You can complicate it all you want, but this experience here, it's a circus. We're all taking turns being the clown, but being a clown, you still have great latitude in what you want to do. I say it all the time, your coordinates, where you want to be, when you want to be it. You still have control over that. This construct is a magical experience because it observes every individual intelligence that's here in this field, and it builds a world for them while maintaining an overfield that everybody can share. We all have commonalities. We all understand what the sky is. We all understand what the ground is. We all understand the many NPC life forms that are in this experience. We all agree that's a duck, and that's a mongoose, and that's a ferret, and that's a squirrel. We have these commonalities are a part of the constructual programming. They give life to the experience. But our experiences, who we become, our ups and downs, the roller coaster and the vicissitudes of life is absolutely dependent on how you see yourself. Because how you see yourself is always going to govern behavior. How you truly view yourself is going to dictate how you behave in the construct. And behavior is the language of the observer. The observing construct watches your behavior and then builds for you. It renders your reality as you play your part. That's what it does. So, yeah, man. His name is Leia. His name is Baltazar Gracian. He's the first. I have not found another author that goes farther back than Baltazar Gracian. His book is called The Art of Worldly Wisdom. He's the first. He's the first OG in the new thought, in the not self-help, but in the creating your own conditions type stuff, the secret Rhonda Byrne type stuff. When the Nemesis X tertiary field happens in 2046, the Jewish control structure, for some reason, wants us to believe the invaders are enemies. So we're automatically going to attack them without even questioning who you are, where you come from, or what are you doing here and all that. They're going to paint there's going to be a very convincing. I don't believe a lot of people are going to wake up to this. I believe it's going to be a minority that understand that all the earth changes aren't because of an alien species. That's Jewish gaslighting. There are no aliens coming here terraforming our planet. It's the Phoenix phenomenon. It's a natural cycle, vapor canopy. Yeah. But they're not going to claim that. And then when these strangers appear among us who are our benefactors, our dumbasses are going to be hurling missiles and spears and arrows and bullets, and we're going to be trying to kill the very people that are our benefactors, except for those who are awakened, because the awakened are going to be recognized by the newcomers. The newcomers are going to realize, well, this group here didn't attack us. This group here didn't attack us. These are the ones going home, making their exodus. Yeah. While all the dumbasses who fell for all the gaslighting are going to stay here and loop right back to the Genesis reset again. That's my theory. Yeah. My theory is we're on a loop. It's two separate historical events. One of them is the Great Separation, 2815 BC, before the flood, and it happened in Egypt. It's the original Tower of Confusion. That's what Babili means. This is where the name Babylon came from, Babili, and it's referring to that story. The Great Pyramid is the Tower of Confusion. So it happened before the flood. It was in Egypt. And that's what this map shows too. Babylon was actually called in northern Egypt. But the breaking of the Akkadian Empire was after the flood by about 340 years under Sargon of Akkad I. When his kingdom fragmented, it was chronologists centuries later who was writing about the events of 2000 to 1900 BC who associated the much older story with the newer story of Babylon. This is my very first combination of underground and cypher. And man, let me tell you something. I'm excited about a new series that will only be shown to underground and cypher. And it's my new Archaix newsroom. Those videos are not for YouTube. It's a whole new series I'm going to be doing right here just for both communities at the same time. I'm still going to do my independent underground and my independent cypher videos, but here in the near future, the Archaix newsroom will be open for business.